Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over 10 of the most realistic looking cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now before we get into this list, I just want to say, yes, I know there are other super realistic looking cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. Maybe some that are even a little bit more realistic looking than this. However, this is kind of opinion based because, well, there's no real way to say factually what car looks the most real. So yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that there are probably going to be some cars that you guys think are more realistic than these. However, these are the 10 cars that I have compiled for you guys in this video. Let's get into it, starting off with number 10. Alright guys, so at number 10 we have the Vapid Caracara 4x4. This thing is based super heavily off of a Ford F-150 or a Ford F-150 Raptor. Now it's a bit arguable which it's more based off of. I personally think it's more like a Raptor because of the pretty flared fender arches. However, you could argue that it just is a regular F-150 with some work done to it. Overall, as you guys can see, compared to a real F-150, it is a pretty realistic take on it within Grand Theft Auto. Rockstar got really close to the copyright infringement line with this one. I think they did a super good job. The only thing that I don't like about this truck is how skinny it is. It looks ridiculous to me. This truck would have looked so much better if it was like an extra like 3 inches wider. It just looks weird, man. I don't know, like, you guys see what I mean? Like, it's kind of just like long and skinny. Like, it really doesn't look all that good in my opinion. So I'm not a fan of how skinny it is. However, other than that, I really do like this truck a lot. I think it is super good. Well, that was really anticlimactic. And now it's stuck. Oh boy. Oh, it's time to move on to number 9. All right, guys. Next up, we have the Vapid Dominator ASP. Oh my god, a crowd! I'm just kidding. At number 9, we have the Vapid Dominator ASP. This thing is super realistic. It's largely based off of the 2000 SVT Cobra, but you could also argue that it is basically a 99 to a 04 Mustang. I've personally based mine off of a Cobra. However, you could argue that this is basically any degree of Mustang from 1999 to 2004. It looks really good. I think that Rockstar actually did an absolutely amazing job with this vehicle. It literally looks like no other vehicle except for the Mustang, which I think is just dope. I really like it when Rockstar really heavily bases a vehicle off of one vehicle and not another. And with this vehicle, I think they definitely did that. As you guys can see by this picture, this thing does look pretty realistic, I gotta say. Overall, I'm a pretty big fan of this thing, Dominator ASP. It's a great car. You guys should definitely pick this thing up. Anyways, moving on to number 8. Alright guys, next up we have the Pagassi Tempesta. Now I think that Rockstar did a really good job with this car. I have personally based mine off of a Lamborghini Huracan in real life, namely TJ Hunt's Huracan. If you guys know who TJ Hunt is, he's an automotive YouTuber and he has a Huracan that looks just like this. I tried to rebuild this car in GTA and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. However, regardless of copying TJ Hunt's build, the Tempesta is a really realistic looking car. It's very obviously based off of the Lamborghini Huracan, and I think that Rockstar did a great job capturing what this car looks like, but making their own sort of spin on it as to avoid copyright infringement, obviously. As you guys can see by the picture on screen, I think that I did a pretty good job copying this build, and overall, I think it looks pretty realistic compared to the Huracan in real life. Anyway guys, that is it for number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Alright guys, the next vehicle that I have on the list is the brand new Fisker Astron that came out with the Contract DLC. This thing is very heavily based off of a Porsche Macan Turbo or a Macan GTS, or you could probably argue it could be based off of a Cayenne Turbo as well. However, I feel like it's definitely based off of the Macan pretty heavily. As you guys can see by the picture that I'm going to put on screen right now, it is a pretty realistic looking vehicle. From the front end especially, this thing just screams Macan Turbo. I think that Rockstar absolutely killed this thing. They did such a good job. I'm getting more and more proud of Rockstar for trying their hardest to infringe on copyright within GTA. I think that they're really starting to get into their stride here, and I just hope that it continues. And I hope that eventually we just get some vehicles that are just even more realistic looking than these. Overall, from pretty much every angle except for really the back, this vehicle looks super realistic. I'm not sure how I feel about the back on the Astron. It's not my favorite, that's for sure. It looks really strange. I feel like the roof should have came like a little bit further back and then gone down, but regardless of that, it is still a really good looking vehicle, and it's also a super fast vehicle. So if you're planning on racing in the SUVs category, the Astron is not the worst car that you guys could actually use. Anyway, that's it for number 7. Let's move on to number 6. 6. Alright guys, at number 6 we have the Fisker Comet S2. Now this thing is based off of pretty much any 911 that you really want it to be. What I mean by that is the Fisker S2, you can basically make it look like a pretty base model 911, you can make it look like a 911 Turbo, you can make it look like a GT3, and you can make it look like a GT2, which is what I've gone for. So mine is personally based off of a GT2 RS. That's the look that I was going for with this thing, and I think that I did a pretty good job. Obviously it's not going to be 100% realistic, but it looks pretty close. And beyond that, I think that Rockstar did a great job because they gave me the ability to copyright infringe, which is just amazing. Who doesn't love to copyright infringe, guys? I mean, let's be honest here. Copyright infringement is what keeps us going. Anyways, as you guys can see by the picture that I'm going to put on screen right now, this thing has a striking resemblance to the 911 GT2 RS in real life, and I really like that. Overall, I think Rockstar pretty much killed it with this thing as well. I honestly don't really have any complaints other than this thing sucks. I hate to say it, but like the handling on this thing is so garbage. I hate it. It is super fast, or at least it was. They nerfed it too though, so it's performance wise it's just kind of an L, unfortunately. But it's a really cool looking car at least, right? So that's really what matters. Anyway guys, that's it for number 6. I'm now very sad, but yeah, that's it. Let's move on to number 5. Alright guys, the next vehicle on our infringement list is of course the Albany VSTR. Now it's Cadillac today that has been destroyed by Rockstar Games. This thing is literally a Cadillac CTSV, but in GTA. I mean, like, literally from pretty much any angle, this thing just screams CTSV. And I mean, Cadillac can't do anything about it, you know? Only thing that I have seen people say is that this thing looks like a Mercedes S-Class or maybe an E-Class, heavily based on what the headlights look like, which I do agree the headlights do look like Mercedes headlights. However, other than that, I mean, the car pretty much, I mean, let's be honest here, it's a CTSV. It just is. There's no other way about it. Like, look at that hood scoop. I mean, look at the picture and look at that. Like, it's the same car. It's literally the same car. It's like a little different proportions and Mercedes headlights. And other than that, it's a CTSV, man. So, I don't want to argue about it because it's a CTSV. So if you disagree, you're wrong. Anyways, that's it for number 5. On to number 4. All right, guys. Next up at number 4, we have the Invitero Cockhead D10. This thing is very clearly based off of what vehicle? Could it maybe be a Corvette C8? I think, you know what? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a Corvette C8. Literally, I don't actually understand how Rockstar did not get sued for making this car. This is a Corvette C8. The only real difference that I've been able to decipher on this car is that this vent on the real C8 is like opposite. The top end is forward and the bottom end is backwards. That is like literally the only real change that I've actually seen with the Corvette C8 in comparison to this. And the other thing is the rear spoiler. The Corvette C8, at least the one that's out right now, doesn't actually really have a rear spoiler unless you get like I think it's the 3LT package or something like that. The new Corvette C8, I think it's the Z06, does have a spoiler that kind of resembles this. So, I mean, really, Rockstar just killed it. They even the interior on this car kind of resembles the C8. It could be a little bit closer, but it's pretty close, man. I don't know. Rockstar did a really good job with this car. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. I think that they absolutely killed it. I mean, as you guys saw the picture on screen there, it's a Corvette C8. It just is. So, I mean, that's it, guys. Let's move on to number 3. All right, guys, next up on the copyright infringement chopping block, we have BMW. And of course, we have the Rebla GTS. This thing is super heavily based off of a BMW X5 or a BMW X5M, depending on the customization options that you actually put on this thing. I personally have got mine looking like a X5M. Overall, this car is absolutely fantastic looking. I think that Rockstar did a better job on this car than maybe any other car in the entire game. The amount of customization options for this thing are absolutely awesome. You can make it look super aggressive and also just super good. It's overall just a really incredible vehicle. As you guys can see right now on screen, The look of this thing in comparison to the real one is absolutely spot on pretty much. I mean, there's a couple small differences here and there, but overall, the Rebla GTS pretty much is a BMW X5, no matter how you slice it. This thing's awesome. I would highly recommend picking up a Rebla GTS, especially if you guys are into realistic looking cars, because this thing is as real as it gets. Shout out, little baby. Anyway, guys, that is it for number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Alright guys, and at number 2 we have the Bravado Buffalo STX. Anyways, as you guys can see, this car is super good looking. I think that Rockstar absolutely killed it with this. I've previously made another most realistic looking cars list, and this thing was actually at number 1 because, I mean, dude, it's literally a scat pack. I mean, there's not really anything else that it could even be, and I think that Rockstar just did such a good job with the actual design of the car. It's a real improvement over the Bravado Buffalo S that we also have in game, and the regular Buffalo of course too. It's just a really modernized version, and it looks just like the newer age Dodge Charger Scat Pack or Hellcat. So I think that Rockstar killed it. Good job, Rockstar. Thank you so much. As you guys can see, I have a picture of a Scat Pack right here, just in case you didn't know what one looked like. As you can see, yeah, they kind of line up, don't they? They're kind of good looking cars. They kind of look like each other a little bit. Anyway guys, that is it for number 2. Let's move on to number 1. Alright guys, then at number 1 we have the Classy Granger 3600 LX. This thing is brand new and online, and I am so happy to have this thing in the game. As you guys can see, it is a Chevy Suburban to the max. It basically improves on the regular Granger, which was already pretty much a carbon copy of the Chevy Suburban, and it makes it just into a modernized Chevy Suburban. This thing is obviously based off like one of the newer model years. I don't really know which one in particular. Basically, probably a 2016 or newer. Obviously, I have mine with armor on it, with a roof rack and a bull bar, all that sort of stuff. So it's not a completely accurate representation of the picture that's on screen right now, but I think you guys can get the gist of it. It's pretty darn close, man. Like, they got to the copyright infringement line again. They did it. Chevy is gonna sue. They're gonna have to sue because like Rockstar just can't keep getting away with this. It's I don't know, man. I'm happy that they are, but they just, I don't know, man. This GM's gonna sue, man. There's like 3 GM vehicles on this list that we've already gone through, and I mean, man, they can't be happy about it. Being associated with GTA is a bad look, I guess, for business, because all the boomers think that GTA is an evil game where kids are gonna, I don't know, I don't even know. Anyway guys, that's it for number 1. We have the Granger 3600 LX. This thing is absolutely incredible. It looks just like the real thing. It's an awesome vehicle. I would highly recommend it, and I think it's actually one of the cheapest vehicles that came out with the contract DLC. It's just over $1 million, and for that price you do get a really sweet vehicle. Of course, you can also put the armor on it and the Imani tech that stops you from getting locked onto by Oppressor Mark IIs or anyone else that's got rockets and wants to lock onto you. So it's a great car. Would highly recommend it. Anyway guys, that is it for the top 10 most realistic looking cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I missed any cars, and I will definitely be making a part 2 to this video in the very near future. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, leave a like, if not dislike, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.